So in the events of cardiac cycle, the first one is the mechanical events of cardiac cycle. That is in the events of the heart. First one is the mechanical events, that is cardiac cycle. And second one is the heart sounds. Okay. Third one, what we are going to see is the electrical events which is taking place in the heart. That is what you term it as electrocardiogram, ECG. So ECG, it is the measure of electrical activity of the heart. What is meant by EEG? What? Electroencephalogram. What it is measuring? Is it measuring the brain? What is it is measuring in the brain? It is measuring the electrical activity of the brain. So ECG, it is the measure of the electrical changes or the electrical of activity of the heart. Okay. And this is mainly given by the principle of Einthoven's triangle. Okay, and he is the person who made the measurement to become easy, and that is by the string galvanometer or oscillograph. Based upon the principle of Einthoven's triangle, we are measuring the electrical activities of the heart. Okay, so, and we are not going to see how to measure all those things. We will just have a look on the normal ECG and what are the phases and what it is determining. Okay, because before going into the abnormality, you will see all those things in the internal medicine. You should know what is normal. That is what we are going to study in physiology. Okay, so we have different waves in the ECG. The first one is P wave, QRS complex, P wave and U wave. Okay, so a simple graph, which is what I'm going to draw over here. A P wave, followed by Q, R, S, then you will have a T wave and U wave. So P, Q, R, S, T, U. Okay, clear? So now we will see what it is going to represent. The first thing, P wave. Any idea what is the P wave going to determine? It is due to the which mechanical event is responsible for producing the P wave? Which mechanical event? In which phase of the cardiac cycle? Cardiac cycle is related with the sodium channels, all those things. Good. P wave. It is mainly due to the atrial depolarization. Okay. Depolarization of the atrium, in the sense atrium is contracting. So it is determining what state? Atrial systole. Okay, so P wave is mainly due to the atrial depolarization. The blood which is going to the lower chambers from the upper chambers of the heart. The measure of electrical activity during the atrial systole is what we are seeing as P wave. Okay, so if there is a P wave value is decreased or delayed, it means atrial systole is not happening properly. So the cardiac cycle, different phases we have seen. Each phases is going to be recorded by the electrical activity, and that is what we are seeing as a electrocardiogram. Okay, so that is what you call it as electrical activity measurement. Okay, so P wave is the reflection of atrial systole during atrial depolarization. And second one is, and the normal duration of P wave should be always 0.11 0.11 seconds. Okay, and next one is in the QRS complex. Okay, the entire duration of the QRS complex is 0.1 seconds. Okay, so this, see the graph, QRS. So the whole is considered as the QRS complex. So altogether, this QRS complex is the ventricular depolarization, ventricular systole. But why we are having three different values, the graphical representation for ventricular depolarization. But in case of atrial depolarization, only one graphical representation as P wave. But in case of ventricles, why there is three different graphical representations? Because each representation in the QRS complex will be going to consider in different structures, different regions of the ventricles. Even though the ventricle is contracting as a whole, but we are going to differentiate each based upon the graphical representation. So we will see that one by one. The Q wave is mainly due to the, in the QRS complex, the Q wave is mainly due to the depolarization of the upper interventricular septum, and it is a negative wave. It is giving the downward deflection. So we will represent it as a negative wave. And R wave, that is due to the depolarization of the apical portion of the interventricular septum and right and the left ventricular walls. Okay, and S wave is due to the continuous depolarization followed by the Q wave, R wave in the basal portion of ventricular wall. Okay, and this is also a negative wave, and this S wave you cannot demarcate because it is merging with ST segment. What is ST segment? We will see. Okay. See over here the QRS complex, and when you look again with the structure of the heart, okay, so this atrial depolarization is giving the P wave, and here the upper portion of the interventricular septum, it is represented by the Q wave. And when you come with the R, apex, this is the apex of the heart, right? So the rest of the interventricular septum in the apex, and the right and the left walls of the ventricles is considered with the R wave. And this is the basal portion of the heart, right? In the heart, the apex is in the bottom, the base is at the top. So the rest of the basical depolarization of the ventricles, it is given by the X wave. So that is why the ventricular depolarization is given by the QRS complex. Okay, if defective or decrease in the value of QRS determines whether the apical portion of the interventricular septum, base of the interventricular septum, upper portion, or the walls of the ventricles is not functioning properly, you can easily identify, because they are supplied by different junctional tissues. The upper interventricular septum is by the bundle of His, right and the left bundles. Then it gives rise to the Purkinje fibers, which is supplying the apical portion of the interventricular septum. Then it is turning back around and then supplying the other walls of the ventricles, the basal walls of the ventricles, by the Purkinje fibers. So all together you will demarcate where the abnormality is. So that is the significance of measuring the electrical activity of the heart. Okay, clear? And the next one is regarding the T wave and the S wave. This T wave is due to the ventricular repolarization. So after the contraction, depolarization, returning back to the normal level. And then finally U wave. It is a very small wave and very low amplitude, and it is due to the persistence of negativity after the potential. What you call it as in the action potential? Hyperpolarized. Okay, hyperpolarized, then immediately go back to the normal. Usually we will not see this U wave. Okay, clear? So this is how we are correlating the events of cardiac cycle, ECG, and the action potential. Okay, so this is going to be the one of the important index or important marker to demarcate and localize where the abnormality is in the heart. Okay, clear? Yes. So this is what is the normal representation of the ECG and its measurements.